Qué honor estar acá, de verdad que ya siento la adrenalina en mi cuerpo fuerte. Bueno, hoy les voy a hablar de un concepto que nos inventamos construyendo un equipo en Bloomberg que se llama Mascot Driven Development. Básicamente es mi historia de cómo me convertí de un software engineer a un engineering manager y todo lo que aprendí, el dolor de aprender las cosas a las malas. Y nada, quiero compartirlo con todos ustedes y ojalá nos llevemos un par de enseñanzas. Y ya van a ver por qué me toca hacer casi todo en inglés. Bueno, soy Alejandro Vega. So, let me start with a brief history of me. So, I was born in Bogotá, Colombia. De ahí crecí a los 16 años, Liceo Boston, normal. Algo muy importante es que soy súper fan de Dragon Ball. O sea, lifetime Dragon Ball fan. O sea, lo sigo, gracias. Goku y Vegeta, pero bueno. Ahí crecí en Colombia, aprendí mucho de Goku. A los 16 años mi mamá me montó en un avión y dijo, nos vamos para Miami. Pero no va a ganar el primer millón, nos vamos para Miami. Bueno, en Miami terminé mi high school en Michael Crop y a los 18 años pues empecé en Miami College, el Community College, ahí es como que me gustaba, tarará, voy a estudiar matemáticas, computadores, ahí hice 2 años y ahí me transferí a University of Florida y ahí fue cuando como de verdad dije, bueno, esto es lo que voy a ser ingeniero, ta. Entonces empecé ingeniería de sistemas y matemáticas, un dual major en la universidad, y ahí me tomé 5 años, me tomé mi tiempo para aprender las cosas, y ahí conseguí un trabajo. Cuando me gradué, me conseguí un trabajo en Sage Software, que es un medical software company, súper chévere, bacano, para empezar, tarará, y ahí llegó Bloomberg. Entonces ahí llegó Bloomberg y me mudé a Nueva York en el 2010, donde he pasado ya más de 9 años trabajando para Bloomberg. Empecé en Charts Core Applications, ahí hice mi maestría como remoto y después, hace 2 años, pasé a Software Infrastructure to lead a team Application Framework Functions. Okay, so, sorry, it's going to be English and Spanish. What a mess. All right, so my first 7 years were basically spent developing the main financial graphical functions that the Bloomberg Terminal does. The Bloomberg Terminal is a financial software that is used all around the world. Anybody that does anything with finance needs a Bloomberg Terminal. It's crucial to do their job. So I spent a lot of time building these things, right? When I joined Bloomberg, you go through like a 3-month program, training program, and I realized that this is a big deal. Like every single person around me was a genius, and I was like, wow, okay. I was very intimidated. I'm like, this is the big leagues. What do? You make friends. So you start making friends. Hey, where are you from? Hey, I'm from Bulgaria. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm from Colombia. Ah, Colombia. With reggaeton wasn't a big deal at the time. It was more like Carlos Vives, Shakira, but bueno, it is, but at the time it wasn't. Pero, bueno, so you make a lot of friends, and that's key. That's the first thing I learned. You have to drop your ego. You have to drop your beliefs and open your mind. Make friends, because it's very important to start creating that network. And you're there to learn. In my first 6 months at Bloomberg, I learned more than I learned in my 4 years in school. Again, 2010, it was a different time. The iPhone didn't exist. I mean, or the iPhone 1 came out. Well, when I was in school, there wasn't iPhones. So I started learning. And then I joined Charts, and I really got passionate about it. So I started coding everything JavaScript, building all of these applications, meeting customers, talking to product, meeting other engineers, and learning. And every day you meet somebody that just knew more than you. But it was a really, really exciting experience. And one of the things that hit me really early was the impact of Bloomberg. Because, you know, you have a project in the school, you know, you get a grade, whatever, bah. Pero in Bloomberg, the first mistake I made as an engineer, tell you. The first mistake I made as an engineer, I committed some code, something broke, get a call 2 a.m., you know, markets in London are not being able to trade because of this, and you're like, whoa, what? Like, what do you mean? So you understand that this system, Bloomberg, has to run 24/7, all the time. And then you really realize kind of like the role that you're playing, and it's like, oh, this is serious. I cannot just be coding things, not testing, and just believe, right? Deploy to prod. No, you cannot do that. So you learn that early in your career. And during all this time, I built my network. I started helping with recruiting new engineers, making friends. Again, it's like the one thing that I work really hard in Bloomberg, make these connections. And obviously, your connections are outside of work, in work, with your work, collaborating. Be nice. Being nice is one of the most important things I learned in my 7 years. And then embrace change. You come in the morning, hey, new product, you have whatever time to finish it, new teams, new managers, so you have to embrace change. One of the things that happens in the corporate world is as you start thinking that this is my desk, this is my IDE, this is my language. Now tomorrow everything can change, So you need to really embrace it. So 7 years passed by, I was really happy, I had control of it, I work-life balance, I learned all the Latin places in New York, it was great, Bien. And then this manager that I work from another team comes to me out of the blue. I see him in the elevator, and he says, hey, Luis, I need to talk to you. I'm like, yes. I need you to lead a team. I need you to just get out of charts, come over here, you're going to start a new team, and it's going to build all of the engineering tools that all of you use in order to get your job done. And I'm like, are you talking about those tools that I have like 24 tickets open and I really don't like? Yeah, those. It's great. This is your opportunity to make a difference. And I was like, oh wow, this is a problem. Because literally, these are like applications that they made here and there, and that we all use on a daily basis, and I really didn't like them. So I was like, okay, what do I do? And then I started obviously asking my family, asking my mom, and then my mom is like, I don't know. But, ask your friends, whatever. But it came to me that I had to take this opportunity. I was very comfortable where I was. I learned. I don't want to say everything, but you give me a project, I'll finish it. But this was the time to really challenge me and really to try this whole new set of skills, and I completely panicked. So yeah, I went to him and I was like, what do I do? And then my friend obviously came and said, one of my close colleagues said, you remember how you're always talking about embracing change? ¿Qué pasó? I was like, okay, well, we're doing it. So I went to this manager and I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And they're like, awesome, come here, welcome, you're building a new team. And I was like, okay, well, this is great. Hi, all the people that I don't know. Here we go. And then, and then he's like, okay, guess what? I'm about to have a kid, so I'm going to go and leave. See you. I'm like, what? Like, literally alone, right? So this whole new unknown world of things that I have no idea. And at that moment, I remember that Friday, 4 p.m., I was like, miércoles. La embarré. Hasta aquí llegó esta plática. Y ahí empezaron las enseñanzas. Ahí de verdad empecé pues a aprender de cero las cosas que you don't really realize that you have to learn this. Ay, que tenaz este Spanglish mío, hombre. Bueno. And then you have to start learning everything. So when you move to this new team, you leave everything behind. All of your charts and stuff, everything is basically behind. And then you're like, okay, bring it on. And it's like all this array of things that you have no idea about. So you go from owning 0 things. In Bloomberg, we provide a lot of ownership for engineers. So everybody owns a product. And like when something gets wrong, they call you. But when something goes right, you get all the recognition. So you go from owning 0 to owning just a lot of things, right? And okay, so I made an inventory. I print them, put them on the wall. I'm like, this is awesome. Okay, so I'm like, this is nice, I can do this. Oh, all the tickets that came with this, including your 24 tickets, now you own them. And you're like, I shouldn't have opened that ticket. and then you start getting engineers. Now, you remember that network that I keep talking about? So when that network found out that I was in this position, they were really happy. Because it's like, oh, they're going to finally do this. And I start getting messages and messages. I'm like, oh, my God. This doesn't work like that. We don't have anything like that. No, this is going to be a disaster. No, what am I going to do? So, yeah, people were very nice, but they're like, oh, finally you're there. Yeah, go ahead and do this. I'll come back in a week. And you're like, oh, this is a real problem. My manager, taking care of his kid. It's great. Okay, so a team of 1. So this is our mascot for one of our JavaScript frameworks called Rapid, based on SpiderMonkey. And all of the applications that we had were based on this. And this is what I've been coding for 7 years. So I was like, okay, you know what? Yo puedo. Acá, yo puedo con todo. Hágale pues, hágale. So I started coding, and it was like late nights and like figuring it out. I can do all of this, ta-da-da. So you're reading a code base, right? And you're like, okay, I'm understanding this. And then another message, hey, did you fix this in this other place? I'm like, all right, yeah, no. This is not going to work out. And then it struck me, dude, you move here to lead a team, not to become, a hero coding and do everything yourself. So the realization that I had a team of 1 hit me really hard. I'm like, okay, step back, blast a message. I'm not fixing anything yet. Sorry, everybody, wait. It's time to recruit. It's time to actually build a team because big projects, you can never finish them by yourself. You need help. And then we started recruiting and recruiting and recruiting. So I went to my managers and I'm like, okay, I need help. We need to start this team, you know. And a new training class had come in and 2 new hires were looking for a team to work on before their training class began. So I was like, I take them. They turned out to be awesome engineers, one guy, one girl, awesome. And then we started there. And then that network that I keep talking about. Now it sounded like I was selling something. Like, oh, nuevo equipo, vengan, apliquen, aquí, muévanse. Bloomberg has like an internal application for transferring teams, so it's pretty simple, but you have to convince people. So you have to sell your team. So you go overnight to become like a salesperson, somebody that is just like, this is why you like your team, this is why you're gonna like it. Oh, do you like React? We have React. Oh, you like JavaScript? Yeah, we have JavaScript. This is our second framework called R+. It's based on V8, on Cron's V8. Oh, do you want to use R+, the newest thing? We can use it here. By being in software infrastructure, I had that opportunity to offer to people. So I became dreaming about my team. Like, I would literally have a dream at night that I hired somebody. I was like, yes! And then I will see them in the office. I'm like, oh, that was a dream. But then, yeah, you keep the mind, you know the people that you want to work with, and then you just dream, you believe. This time you got to believe. And you just start hiring people, and then you start building that team. And then when you get people on your team, they know people. So make all of your team recruit for you. And then it's not like a multi-level marketing, but you definitely branch out on a tree that everybody on your team is going to recruit. And you put that urgency in your team that we need to grow, and we need to get to this number of people because we need to build these amazing things. So recruiting, it's very key, something that I learned. And I keep, my team is full, I keep recruiting. You never know. It's good to have a wait list, you know? Something happens, maybe more people, new projects, I have somebody for you. So building that is a constant thing in my daily life, I guess. All right, so we have a team, we started a team, okay, my manager comes back from his parental leave, and he's like, okay, we need to build this flagship product. And here's where I looked. I had spent already a couple months looking at the current project, the current inventory of applications. And I realized that it's very important to identify your weakness, right? The thing that we are the weakest about, and embrace it. Usually what happens when we identify a weakness is that we walk away from it. You're like, oh, I don't know how to code that. No, alguien más lo hace, yo no quiero hacer eso, right? But no, embrace your weakness. So there were 2 things that I identified. One of the biggest things was we didn't have any application to easily retrieve client-side logs to the user, to the engineer, so that they could look at it. But the biggest thing that I found is Bloomberg is composed of about over 10,000, over 12,000 applications in the Bloomberg terminal that is developed by like 6,000 engineers, right? But the name of all these applications, I know it's a lot. The name of these applications are from 1 to 4 letters. A lot of acronyms. WEI, World Equity Indexes. Serious things like that. But then I realized that why name it something as an acronym when you can put names into it? So our first project was called Jack, and a loose affiliation to the function. Jack comes from lumberjacks, which back in the States, it was the people that went to the trees, cut them, and they brought the logs, which was what this did. It brought client-side logs. So very loose affiliation to what it actually does. But then you start doing this, and then we said, we're going to give them a name, and we're going to give them a mascot. And this is the idea where mascot-driven development was born. We brainstormed with the team tons of ideas that we wanted to do, and even before we wrote a line of code, before we knew kind of like how it was going to work, we had a mascot. And we had a board with all the names, and then we started creating the names, the mascot, and then we coded it. And it became really funny because when you have a company with amazing applications, but tens of thousands of them, you lose your identity. How was I going to make the head of engineering know the name of my applications? With a name, with a mascot, and with stickers. So we flooded the company with stickers. And then you start seeing managers with stickers. You start seeing the CTO talking about how some of the applications that I'm going to show you we built. So that was kind of like our idea, and we're still doing it. And it's really fun. It brings that that fun thing to the environment. So as I said, you find your weakness. So we found the thing that we didn't have any way of doing. That means the bar is really low, right here. So all you have to do is cross it. And you're doing great, right? So you set the bar higher, you identify an MVP, and back to my roots, you just leave your ego behind. So you go to engineers and you said, hey, you know how you want to retrieve your logs on demand 24/7? Well, we're not going to be able to do it right away. We're going to have to only do it when the customer is connected. Oh, okay, that's good. And when you come up with honesty and without an ego, engineers and your users really are really welcoming to it. So we decided to do an MVP, and we start coding it. And it was like, all right, let's get Jack out of the door, let's do it. And then coding time. It was like coding. And then when you start coding, obviously there is a team, right? And then you're like in the middle there. You're like el capitán ahí del equipo, no? And then you're like, okay, so what do I do? Do I code? Do I solve the hard problems? Do I decide to like distribute the team, the work or whatever? Or do I know what is going to be the second part of this project? And the reality is that you have to do a little bit of each as the captain. But you need to know not to do everything. And one huge lesson hit me. Stay away from the critical path. The critical path is that functionality, that piece in your code that will make it or break it, that is a showstopper. And if you, as the team, as the manager, decides to do it, you're risking the entire project. Because what things happen, you have to deal with other things, you have meetings, blah, blah, blah. And then your team is waiting for you. Well, Alejandro said he was going to send the PR on Monday, but next Monday, So learning that was key. And if you ever, the moment you hit a manager position, remind it yourself, like paste it in your desk. Stay away from the critical path. Because as programmers, we want to do this, right? We want to solve the hard problems. But that's why you have a team. That's what the team is doing, right? So yeah, I can code, sure. But should I? Maybe not. Maybe I need to distribute the work for my team so that they do the critical parts, and then I can help with the not so critical features, which kills me a little bit, but it is the reality. So, okay, promoting innovation and inventions. So your team has ideas. Just because you're the manager doesn't mean that you have to be aquí el clarividente, right? Like, Spanglish. So come with ideas. This is another application we created called GoodGo. GoodGo is a dashboard that shows you all of the objects that you own, all of the JavaScript projects, all of the different UIs, backend services, databases, and then it showed you basically whether they are fully released, whether they are consistent in production. This entire idea was born as a prototype of a team member. And then he presented it, and we said, okay, we're finishing this project, but let's put it in Jira. Let's put it on the backlog. Never throw ideas away. Even if you're super busy, go to lunch. Take your team to lunch. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about your idea. And then start building it. Start sharing it with the team. Ideas are very valuable. Even the ones that sound crazy, you can shape them to be not so crazy, and then it become very good ideas. So another application we built, GoodGo, you can see the check mark on the screen. Whenever you load the application and all of your things are not, he gets really sad, and then there is an X. So it's like, it's kind of cute. Okay. So again, I'm going to say it again, stay away from the critical path. Even on this product, I was like, I'm going to code it on the side because everybody's busy with this, and they're like, no, we want to do it. So stay away from it. It's very, very, very important. All right, and then obviously, every day that you come to work, every day that you are out with friends, right, whatever, think about what the next project is. Think about what can you change in your team. Keep building your path. Keep thinking what's going to happen 3, 6 months, 9 months down the road, a year down the road. Probably won't happen, but it's good to have that idea. And the reason why that is so important is because your team wants to know that you have a path, that you're going to a goal. They don't want to follow the next step and the next step like it was like a puzzle or something. They want to know where they're heading. So it's really good to keep trying to do that. All right, so that means that we're all in a single boat. It's one team, right? And as teams grow, what you're going to realize is that people start, getting a passion for one of the products, for Good, for Jack, for Envy in this case. But the reality is we're all in one team, which means that whenever there is a success, we all succeed. The team succeeds. It's not individuals, right? But when we fail, when we make a mistake, we all fall. So in introducing that concept of we're always in this together to your team, and that culture is so critical, and it's so easy to miss. Because by default, you think, sí, todos somos equipo, aquí todos trabajamos juntos, todo bien. Pero no, if you don't really, if you don't really like focus on that, it's not going to happen. So it's important for you to always tell your team and celebrate the victories. Celebrate the victories together. Now, make sure your team members know each other. That doesn't mean, do you know your name? Do you know where you're from? Promote talking. We're lucky, we're sitting in like a honeycomb environment where all of the team is together, and then you promote conversation. So as the manager, obviously, if you are calm there and then you just work all day, people are going to follow you. People are going to say that that's the culture. And it's something that is very intangible, but it happens. But if you come in and you start talking about your weekend and you start talking about, hey, I traveled to this place. Oh, I tried this movie. Who watched this movie? Oh, no spoilers, right? Trust me, the 20 minutes that you spend not talking about work are so much valuable that if you stick to the rules and just do a very strict stand-up every morning, and what did you do, what did you do, what did you do, okay, let's go. Having those human interactions, having those connections are fantastic, and the result pays off. You see your team members saying, hey, they opened a new taco place around the corner, you want to try it? I'm like, I'm Colombian, but I like tacos. It's good. And then, but it's great. And then they start creating that friendship outside of work. And then you start seeing plans together. They're like, hey, do you think we can take vacation together? Because, we want to go ski together. Like, that's music to my ears. Váyanse, yeah. Like, go, all together. So creating that friendship in your team, it's so, so invaluable. Now, humans have disagreements, different points of view. So whenever there is a disagreement, talk about it. And face it, the earlier the better. It's a little uncomfortable, but having this conversation is key. Oh, this person is really rude on my PRs. These are all examples, right? This person is really rude in my PR. Oh, let's have a conversation. Oh, what is the goal of the PR? Always keep it goal-oriented. Always put yourself out of the equation and just, face the problems. And then when you have it like that, make them talk, make them face it each other, and then the disagreements will not boil into something huge. Again, teamwork is the victory. This product is called Envy. It's called Environment Support. Basically, give us a snapshot of all of the systems that we have installed around the world, what's hardware, et cetera, what machines do they have. And this one was born also by a team member, by a request of a manager, but we kind of like she created the first part and put it there. And then other person in the team had an idea, and I said, why don't you jump on it? And then another person had an idea, jump on it. So this is the one product that everyone in the team has touched, right? It's like la aplicación del pueblo, right? Like everybody in the team, knows this code and comments about this code. And it's fantastic to see that develop naturally. I also made a little bit of changes, but they usually just rip my code apart, so that's okay. Okay, so every single win is important. Just because you have this massive project that you're doing and that's the one you need to celebrate, it's not true. Every little single thing. If we get a manager coming by and said, hey, I tried Envy, it was great, and walk away, everybody pause, let's celebrate, let's go get coffee, like this is good. Every single win motivates, right? It's important to keep that motivation going and really understanding that it's a long game, right? And then every single thing works, and like you just celebrate. But on the same side, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to acknowledge every fail. It's a common mistake that like if everything is going well and there are a couple of mishaps, people are like, okay, don't worry, it's okay, deje así. But you're like, no, let's talk about it. What happened? Like, as a team, again, that could jeopardize the entire future of the team. So understanding the little wins and the little losses and celebrating them and learning from them, it's something that is also very crucial. Now, this is one of my favorite applications. It's called Doctor. Doctor gives you a view of a user and everything that could be going wrong with them. Connection problems, crashes, metadata information about it. Again, Mascot during development. We had this Mascot way before we wrote the first line of code. But anyways, so you need to become a power user of your system. If you build an app, if you build a big suite, whatever it is, your engineers should be the best users of this. They should know every single corner of it. They should know how to use it, the secrets, right? When some other engineers or some other users ask about it, oh, you know, you can do it this way. You can optimize your workflow this way. This is key, and it's something that is common that doesn't happen often because usually the teams and the products that we build is for someone else. So find a way that your team becomes that someone else so that they use it. The moment you start using your products, you start becoming perfectionist about your products. So instead of, oh, you know, you always have to click here and delete and click again, no, I can fix it. I'm going to fix that right now. So the moment you become a power user, your product starts evolving automatically and becoming better because you're using it. And then if you are the best one at using your product, teach it to everybody. We send our team to trainings all the time. Just talk to our engineers, show them how to use this. Hey, let's go interview them. What else do we have to do? And then we become part of the user and the development process. We become stakeholders on our own development, which is very key. CDC. I don't know if you know, in the States, this is called Center for Disease Control. It's like a government organization, whatever. Boring. But the point is, it allows you to see the world. The doctor allows you to see a user. CDC allows you to see everything that you own. Machines, systems, complete teams, right? Now, this application is the one we're developing right now. We released the MVP. Everybody's happy. But there is so much potential to this. There is so much work. Our backlog is crazy. We have years of work if we didn't do anything else but code for 16 hours, sleep, and come back. But that's not the idea. The idea is not to burn everybody out. The idea is not for your team to just burn and then, you know, make them leave. It's a World Cup. Every time you come to work, there will be, to the office, there will be work. There is infinite work and finite time. And we need to be okay with that. And we need to be able to prioritize. And we need to be able to tell people that feature that you want will be done in February. What? That's what it is, because this is what we're going to do before. So it takes time. It really takes time. And you need to teach this to a team, because the moment you put your engineers, you know, in their sprint, everything, 20 cards, you know, and in your mind, you're like, they're only going to do 10. No, they're going to feel like they're behind, right? They're going to feel like I have to come late. I have to finish those 20 cards because, you know, the team. So live with it. There is a backlog. Just that's what it is. And then, yeah, you win some, you lose some. Sometimes the ideas that you have are not good, and you just need to cut your losses. And then maybe sometimes you have to talk to the person that suggested this idea and be like, hey, let's get coffee. You see this idea of yours? Not good. And you have to do it. You cannot just be a fun person and do it every time, because it just doesn't work. And now, this is very important. This is kind of like my lesson here, 8. It's happiness is relative. What makes me happy, I know doesn't make happy some members of my team, and so forth. So by knowing your team, by knowing what their preferences are, you're going to understand what happiness is for them, whether it's at work and outside work. If somebody loves backend and they love databases, don't put them on the UI, because they're not going to like it. But if somebody hates databases, make sure you can allocate the work for your team. If possible, let your team pick what they want to work on. One surprising thing is that everybody thinks that everybody likes the same thing, but it's not true. Well, we all like JavaScript, though, so I guess that's an exception. But yeah, help your team find it. Definitely help your team find that happiness, know what it is, and promote it, at work or outside of work. It's really, really important. And then, you know, as the manager, you have to take one for the team. Hey, we need to change 20 tooltips. Hágale. I'll do it. I'll change the tooltips. I'll do the boring work. You know, something happened, something failed. You know what? Reflecting on the thing, it's my fault. Protecting your team from the outside world is key. And I'm pretty sure your team will really value the fact that you are on the trenches, helping them and keeping them focused on what they actually need to do and not deal with, let's call it, distractions that come up at work. So again, it's a constant reminder. I think every 3 months, I look at the mirror and I'm like, all right, Alejandro, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you happy? Because it's also important that I'm very happy, right? It's also important because that's what I'm conveying to everyone. So it's always a check, and remember, you're building a team every day. Keep your team happy, right? Develop, grow together. Make sure your team learns new things. A member of my team just came back from TC39, and his proposal got to stage 1, record and tuples. And we're all so excited about it that in our team, we are contributing to JavaScript. And that is fantastic win. So making sure what they like and keep evolving them together, it's very important. And give feedback often. One other thing is sometimes you feel that as a manager, 3 minutes, that as a manager, it's only one-way conversation. Always have a two-way. Have this way where your team feels comfortable talking to you about anything. Things that you do right, things that you do wrong. Hey, Alejandro, listen, you're being a little soft on PRs, It's kind of like, I'm like, okay, then I'm going to do better. So definitely have that two-way conversation. Just because you're the manager, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take feedback. Feedback is key for growing. And above everything, about absolutely everything, just have fun and enjoy it. Like, life is short. And if you find a way to enjoy what you do every day, you're not really working. I know it sounds cliche or whatever, but it's really true. I woke up in the morning and I'm really happy to go to work on my next project, to see how my team did. Like, somebody went to Europe, let's see how their trip was. That entire thing builds a career and builds happiness in my life. And that's, I think, a very key part. Just, make sure you have a work-life balance. Make sure that you're not burning your team, that they're developing as human beings, because that's the whole point here. Let's just come to this earth, try to be better, and move forward. So moving forward. So I've been 2 years in this team. I'm really happy. I'm really excited. We have too many projects that every time I think about it, I get stressed. I'm like, okay, maybe I have to work and figure out more people, whatever. But you have to take it step by step. So feedback is the secret to growth. Always reflect. Let your team reflect on you. Reflect on your team. Face it. I'm far from perfect. And admitting that is good, right? Whenever you know you have weaknesses, face them. And, you start just being better a little bit every day. Have goals, as I said. Just, know where you're going. Move a little bit towards your goal every single time. If you ever climb a mountain, when you're really high, you just keep looking at the top. You keep looking at the top. You keep looking at the top. It's really good to stop and turn around and look how much you have climbed from the day one. And doing that often is valuable because you recognize that there has been progress. Even when the team feels that we're like iterating over the same thing over and over, the tooltips, over and over, it's important to recognize that progress going forward. And then finally, listen, love your team. Love your team at work. Love them outside of work. You're helping them build their careers. And every time that I go home and I think about that, I'm very happy that step by step, I'm learning how to develop each of those programmers into better engineers, into better programmers, and into better human beings. And that is Mascot-driven development. Thank you.
¿Qué es la parte pues, más reconfortante de estar en un cargo de liderazgo?
A mí lo que más me gusta, de verdad, es soñar algo y traerlo a la realidad. Entonces, que empiecen un almuerzo hablando de que hoy sería súper bueno crear un sistema donde podamos visualizar todos los crashes que pasan a nivel global. Uy, qué idiota, ¿no? Venga, está buena la salsa, pase. Y después de unos meses verlo como en la vida real, como que sucedió, como que wow. Y sucedió porque los programadores lo lograron, ¿cierto? Por el trabajo en equipo. So, yo creo que los resultados visuales de lo que completamos es lo que más me llena.
¿Y lo más difícil?
Lo más difícil es aceptar que no va a poder programar mucho. Eso es durísimo. De verdad que a veces cojo como pet projects y me voy con ellos. Pues madre, eso me quedo tarde y los programo y son aplicaciones que no tienen nada que ver con mi equipo, pero me divierto haciéndolas. Pero lo más difícil de esto es darte cuenta que es un trabajo diferente. Y mucha gente piensa que, yo soy programador y el paso que sigue es ser tú sabes, jefe o el cuento, no, nada que ver, es un trabajo diferente, es completamente diferente.
Sí, nosotros decimos que, por lo menos en las carreras técnicas, el paso a gerencia es un paso hacia el lado
Total.
y no hacia arriba.
Total, total. Y bien al lado, porque es bien diferente. Lo que
Claro,
te
porque no
digo.
pasa de ser como el maestro o la maestra de los computadores, de las funciones, ya no hay punto y coma que me pare, y luego lo pasan
Sí, sí, sí.
a,
Sí.
a lidiar con personas y ahí.
Sí, no, y es importante ver, sobre todo ahorita, tenemos tanta capacidad de crecer como programadores, ¿verdad? Tenemos toda una comunidad de open source, tenemos muchísimas cosas en que contribuir y crecer. Y yo de verdad, una recomendación que le doy a cualquier persona es que nunca haga este paso, a menos de que lo quiera hacer. Porque si lo hacen porque creen que es como el volverse Super Saiyajin, pues no, no lo es, no lo es.
¿Dónde aprendes? ¿Cuáles son tus recursos favoritos de gerencia?
La gente con la que trabajo. Nosotros tenemos mentors y literalmente los tengo asoleados, mensajes todos los días. Entonces yo creo que otra gente que ha pasado, que ha vivido la experiencia que yo he tenido, es la manera que ojalá los humanos aprendiéramos más de los otros humanos que han vivido con problemas.